everyone, how's it going? It's Rajin Ramdeholl, and today I've got a really great guest, someone I've been following for a few years, looking at all just his road and his path to where he is now. Even I'm a fan of all that he's done. I've got a special guest, Kevin Iglesias, the host of the Real Estate and Chill podcast, top producing real estate agent, head of his own team, just doing really great things, man. I appreciate you being on here today.
Me too, man. Thank you for having me on. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get to this. Stay tuned. You got some really good content coming. Yeah. What are you doing that keeps you busy that other people aren't doing? Because I do see you're busy out there. I see you selling properties, and you guys really are aggressive in the market right now. So what are you doing that's different?
Basically doing what every other agent doesn't want to do, back to the basics as far as hitting the phones, door knocking, reaching out to your sphere, just doing everything. This business is not an easy business. But once you have something that works, you have to stick to it. Like for me, it was always the phones. Like before real estate, I was interning to get my stockbroker license, and we would go in the office literally 9 to 5, and all the new guys that were interning, here's a stack of papers, here's your desk, you can't sit down, you're standing up from 9 to 12, calling all these people, pitching them stocks, let me know when you hit something, you land.
Wow.
And it was just like the movie, man. Everybody was going crazy once you would pitch. And I was the number one guy on the phones.
Wow.
So for me, it was like, damn, like I saw, like there was guys walking up to me like, hey, look, this is how much I'm making a month. It was like 50,000, 60,000. Like, and this is just like in a month or two.
Wow.
And I'm like, damn. And these guys looked like just regular guys. You know what I mean? Like, but obviously this was before the crash. And,
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
But it's funny, right? Because I feel like so many people are scared to get on a phone.
I know. It's just.
And I don't understand why. And it's funny because personally, I feel that the business is easy. We make it difficult, right? Like a lot of us make it difficult because like you just said, okay, market changed. I go back to basics. I make phone calls. I door knock. I do things that were there, right? Maybe I didn't need to do it 2 years ago, but it's there. So I just go back to my basics and I keep doing what people don't want to do. So like, why wouldn't people door knock more? Why wouldn't they make phone calls? Why wouldn't they talk to their sphere of being able to get business? Like, I don't get that concept.
It's just the fear of rejection, I don't know. Everything's changed now. The world's changed. I feel like people a lot, they expect things to come to them when it's this business. You can't wait on opportunities. You got to create them. You know what I mean? And for me, I've always been that person that I'm not going to wait for something to happen. I'm just going to go out and make it happen.
Right.
Like, even with the podcast that we started, like, I'm not going to wait for somebody to say, hey, you want to be a guest? I'm going to make my own wave. I'm going to start my own podcast. I'm going to set my own platform. I'm going to have my own voice and make sure that it's, reaches the masses. But
tell your story, right?
Exactly, 100%. And with COVID and everything changing, going virtual and just everything, just the whole world just changing, you know what I mean? You had to have a voice. You had to control the narrative because there's so many things out there that's being portrayed in the media like, real estate's cheaper now, or you don't have to pay a buyer's agent, or, they always run with the clickbait title.
That's it.
But the ones who are in the field every single day know that it's not exactly how it goes.
And what's great about that is that I feel like people believe they want the truth. Like, yeah, the clickbait's great and all that stuff, but at some point, consumers and people in general, they kind of see through that. And they're like, think about it, right? Like when COVID happened, like with TikTok and social media, it blew up. And it was all about, well, hey, again, you could buy this stock and you could be a day trader and you could make X amount of money. You really don't hear that anymore, right? And then you could buy properties and, you can build a portfolio and you could buy 50 doors, but you don't really hear that now, right? So it's like it goes through the phases, because then what happens is people start to see through that stuff too, and they want to get to the real. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot now. And you could tell me what your feeling is, but I feel like people want to get to the real now. Like, tell me what the truth is. And if you are, they're attracted to that and they want to hear that. And that's why I think your podcast and everything you're doing is as successful as it is, because people want the truth from you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I agree with you with all those messages, the Forex. Oh, give me 100, I'll turn it to 1,000.
Exactly.
I used to get those in my DMs all the time. Or
I flip cars, I flip houses.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The most popular,
I flip couches.
The most popular one is like, oh, I'll turn you into a cartoon for like $5.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? I get all those DMs all the time.
Right.
But again, people want the facts, and we're going into a market that's going to change completely drastically. drastically. I always tell people, look, you had so many companies, even before this was announced, right, that everything was changing as far as NAR and the settlement. You had companies like Purple Bricks, who were like a discount brokerage that were like, oh, we'll do everything for you for 2%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
It's too good to be true.
But wasn't it funny? Like when they came into it, everyone was like, oh, wait. Purple Bricks is about to take over, right? Like,
but you know why? If you ever seen a Purple Bricks commercial, their commercial game was like on point. The content that they put out, it got your attention. You're like, you know what? Maybe I should reach out to them. And look, they were very successful. They had a few months of success, but then they just fizzled out because they realized that it's just the model is not sustainable.
Exactly.
No, it's not sustainable.
And think about that though, right? Like whether it's been the Zillows and all these other different platforms that have come on and try to kind of dominate the market, and from like a real estate side, like there's always these competition, right? Like these things that are supposed to be the next big thing, but it fades away. And the real producers, the real people that believe in doing business the right way are still existent, right? And that goes back to what we were talking about. Your business is still thriving. Why? Because you've built a strong foundation, a strong brand, a strong presence where people respect what you have to say and what you're doing.
It's funny though, because I get a lot of criticism, man. I get a lot of criticism from like people that been in the industry for like ever, right? Like the Stone Ages, right? Since you had to like flip through folders and find listings.
Stop. Listen, I've been there. All right, don't date me that bad.
But I'm saying like real estate agent wise.
For people that don't know, when I started in the mortgage industry, we had folders. We had like papers, and people would actually sign documents, and we would put it in color folders, so you would know like green was FHA or blue was conventional, or so yeah. Don't date me, all right? But go ahead.
So this podcast is gonna come out in color then.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but what I'm saying is I got started in the business in 2016. I didn't get on social media till 2021. So it's funny how when you're not on social media, when you're not putting it out there, it's like it's never happened before. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So when I got on social media, it's like, all right, I'm already successful. Now I just have to put the content out, figure out what works for me as far as like branding wise and content wise. And it worked. But I was getting a lot of criticism from like agents who've been in the industry forever. Like, oh, he's just a social media realtor. I'm like, man, I've been doing this for like years, right? Yeah. You're just seeing me everywhere now because I understand how content works. Like I understand that you have to reach people, you have to be top of mind. And look, real estate is great. Like obviously it's an amazing investment, right? That's why we're in the industry. We help others make those investments as well. But when you understand content and your content is evergreen, somebody can visit it a year or 2 years, 3 years from now, and it'll still be there. Like YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Like first is Google. Yeah. Like if you're not putting content out there and you don't understand how it works, you're doing a big disservice to yourself and your business. I'm closing deals from social media right now, 1.9 million, like 500 and something thousand just from social media, just making connections with people.
And it's funny because that's something I've been saying for years. I just don't understand why people don't believe in the platforms and don't use it. The big part about it is just understanding where the world is going. You got to be there. Sometimes even be ahead of it, right? And if you look at just the shift, everything is now going towards technology. So, like as you just said, if someone wants to go buy something, right? What do? They hop on YouTube, they look at the reviews or they look at the videos to determine whether they want to buy something, or if they want to move somewhere, right? If you let's say want to move to Florida, I do a lot of stuff in Florida, right? So let's say they want to move to Florida in a specific area, Orlando, they're gonna go look up reviews and things about Orlando on YouTube. So if they want to buy a house and you're not on YouTube, your info isn't coming up, but you are.
You know what it is that those agents who are not taking advantage of it, either they're afraid of what they look like on camera, they're afraid of the criticism, they're not confident, or they just don't understand it, right? They don't understand the long-term game. They don't get it. Because, again, when we were starting off our platform, you heard a lot of people. We saw a lot of things. Oh, why I saw the podcast, why are you going to spend money to promote other people?
You're
like,
right.
They don't understand that collaboration over competition is the biggest thing. And that's why I appreciate you having me, and thank you for having me on. I understand how much work this, entails. Like, I get it. It's a lot.
I got to tell you, me personally, the reason I do it is because I love to hear people's stories. I love to hear their knowledge, their input, what they're doing, because I am just such a huge fan about education. It's so important. And so when I hear the little things that you're doing and the differences that you're implementing in your business, that allows me to learn from that. And so all these podcasts that I do is because I want to learn from everyone. I want to see what you're doing. I want to see what you're not doing. I want to hear your story. There's just so much about that I think is amazing. And so, again, I've been following you for years and just seeing, everything that you've been doing and working hard, and to see it all pay off. And that's just here. Like, I think about, even for you and people, like, what's 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I mean, just that success that you're going to keep building on and developing is just a great platform.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's the one thing. Like, I've always been one to believe in myself, because look, like, as you can see, I'm usually suited up, but I got a lot of tattoos, and for me, I was holding myself back in the beginning, because I'm like, all right, it's not what it is now, right?
Yeah.
It was a different industry back then.
Yeah.
I was holding myself back, thinking, I don't know who's going to want to work with me. I'm all covered in tattoos, and I was just in my own head. And once you get out of your own mental prison, there's so much things that you can accomplish if you just get over the fear of being rejected and holding yourself back. Like, once I realized, all right, I did 2 deals. My first year was terrible.
Yeah.
But I realized it was me. It was because of me.
Right.
Like, there was nobody else I could blame. I didn't start off with a team, a mentor, a coach. I didn't be like, all right, well, it's their fault. No,
Right.
It was my fault.
Right.
Like, I took full responsibility of that. And I realized, like, all right, I looked young. First of all, I was a lot skinnier and
you're already
younger.
kind of like numbering all the things.
I had
that you got
everything
against
on.
you.
Yeah, everything that was a disadvantage in the industry basically was on my side. Right. I was like 130 pounds soaking wet. I was like an extra small, bro. Like, I would knock on doors and people like, are you straight out of high school? I'm like, no, I wish.
Right.
But that's what I would get rejected for that, because I looked too young.
Yep.
And I realized, like, all right, what's going to help me out is I got to get as educated as possible.
Yeah.
I got to get the knowledge down packed, because regardless of what I look like, if I know what I'm talking about and I'm valuable, I add value to somebody, it doesn't matter what I look like. It doesn't matter how old I am. None of those things come into consideration anymore.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that, right? So I started the industry when I was 21 years old. I've been 21 years in the industry right now. And I had the same thing, because I always thought, man, when people see me, the first thing they're going to think is, who's this young kid? And funny enough, I used to just keep wanting to just learn and learn and learn. And so when I would be on the phone with them, it'd be great. And, I'd be able to like sell the deal. Back then, like I said, they had to come into the office to actually sign documents. So when they would come in, they'd be like, oh, you're really young. But on the phone, you sound like you have so much knowledge. And I'd be like, and that's exactly the point. I had to, in my own mind, I'm like, man, people are going to think that I'm young, and so they're not going to want to do business. But if I can really focus and hone in on my craft and really be intelligent about what I'm doing, that's going to kind of get over that hump. And that really worked, and I saw a lot of success because of that.
It's true. It's 100% true. I mean, like I said, I think the majority of people who are not doing what they want to do is because they're just holding themselves back. And I've said this from the beginning of my career. I've said, look, it doesn't matter if you have the number 1 coach, you're on the best team. If you're not putting in the work yourself, you're never going to see the results you want to see, because at the end of the day, it all depends on you. Like, I know deep down inside, if my production is low, it's because of me. Like, I'm not doing what I have to do. If I'm not following up, if I'm not reaching out to my sphere, if I'm not checking on past clients, and not even past clients, I call them clients for life, right? Because they're clients for life. But if I'm not doing what I have to do in my business, it's my fault. It's somebody else's.
Self-accountability.
100%.
Right? And I'm glad that we could touch on that, because I feel like that's just missing out there. People just don't want to look internally, right? I'm sorry to say it, but it's just everyone's like, oh, well, the company didn't do this for me, or this person didn't do that for me, or my broker didn't do that, or my team lead didn't do it. But you just said it. You woke up every day and you're like, hey, if I'm not here, it's on me. That means I've got to work harder. I got to make more phone calls. I got to get out there and knock more doors. I got to get out there and do more things, right? Self-accountability.
100%. And this may ruffle some feathers, but I see agents like flipping from one brokerage to another brokerage to another brokerage. It's like they're changing drawers. Like they're changing socks, just flipping back and forth. It's like, regardless of whatever the broker is, you still have to hold yourself accountable and be like, look, I'm going to make it by any means necessary, whether they giving me leads or they're not giving me leads.
Right.
This is your business. You can't depend on somebody else to feed you. You got to feed yourself.
Right. Now, again, and that's a great point. Look, if someone's switching because maybe the place where they are, they just don't have resources in terms of like support and technology, I get that. But if you're someone that's just kind of going from company to company to company because like you just said, you're chasing the fact that the company should be doing more for you. That's not going to work. And I mean, look, I see that on the lending side of things, right? Like, it's crazy how the market's just kind of really shifting now. Everyone's just moving all around, trying to search for something.
They slammed the door over there.
I know.
That was somebody who was switching brokerages to brokerages. They heard.
You said something that they didn't want to hear. You hit that soft spot right there.
They're like, screw this guy, slam.
Yeah, but I agree with you, man. Like, the fact is, before people start trying to run around looking for other places to give them what they think they are supposed to get, look internally first. Focus on that.
You know why self-accountability is so hard for people nowadays is because the instant gratification, right? Like, you want to...
But hold on. Stop it right there. You got to say that again.
The reason why people are having difficulty with self-accountability is because the instant gratification.
Instant gratification.
Like, everybody wants to be praised. Everybody wants the likes. Everybody wants the views.
The big money now so they can show the new cars and the flashiness. I'm sorry to say it, but that's just the truth, right?
Look, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of friends who are on Netflix shows, like they're doing big things, right? But that's not everybody's reality, right? A lot of those agents who are doing those things have been doing it for years.
You don't understand the whole backstory, right?
Of course.
What it took to get them to that. They're just seeing what's there now. And, that's the thing I talk about all the time. Like, it's easy to look at where someone is now, like you just said, whether they're on a Netflix show or doing something like that and be like, oh, wow, look, I want to be like that. But how about you be that person 5 years ago or 7 years ago or 8 years ago or 10 years ago?
Man, like I said, my first year in the business, 2 deals, it was horrible, bro. Like, I could have made more money at working at McDonald's, right? And I was filling out applications. I was filling out full-time positions. Like, yeah, maybe this is not for me.
Right.
But I was in my own head again. I was just like, it's too difficult. I wasn't surrounded by entrepreneurs in my family. I was basically the only entrepreneur taking the risk and saying, you know what, I can make this happen.
Right.
And I realized, again, it was just me holding myself back. So everybody wants the instant gratification. Look, it obviously feels good when other people are complimenting you and your success. But again, you can't rush the process, right? You can't rush it. And again, if you look at my Instagram, you think, oh, this guy has been great for so long and, he's been doing business for so long, but it's not realistic. Like, I was faking it till I actually made it. I remember I was doing a couple rental deals and I was like, yeah, I'm the man now. Like, and I bought a Rolex, nice Rolex, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to look the part now.
Because now they're going to see you. And
they're
going to look down, but, oh, he's got a Rolex.
Yeah. You know what time it is now.
Exactly, right? Oh, it's a little cold out.
Every picture's like,
right?
But the deal went south, bro. My deal went south, and I was like, damn, I spent the money. I had to sell my watch.
Right.
And then I was like, oh,
that hurt.
Hit the ego hard. I was like, oh, man. Now I'm watching this again. I
lost the deal.
And I lost the Rolex. I took a big loss on that, man. I don't even know. It was like a pre-owned watch. It was like probably like 6 and change. I sold it for like $2,500. Took a big loss.
Wow.
But I had to pay this guy back. You know what I mean? And I wanted. This is the problem is the instant gratification, right? Where you want to look the part. You want to look like everybody else. You want to fit in. You want to look successful.
Yeah.
But God humbled me and was like, yep, nope, it's not your time.
But see, that's great though, man, because you see, like I said, there's always that story behind things, right? And a learning, or a message in all of that, right? An experience. You look back at that place now and you're like, man, you know what? I want to look at that place every time and remember where I came from. Remember that part. And for me, and I'm sure this is you, it just kind of lights that spark and that fire every time you think about it. Because you're like, man, you know what? I'm glad I went through that because now I can appreciate where I am. But it also kind of motivates me to keep working and pushing myself.
100%. I say, look, and I come from very humble beginnings. We didn't grow up with money. We didn't grow up with much, hand-me-downs. I used to hate when Mom used to take me shopping for shoes because we would pay less. I'm like, no, Ma, I don't want to. No, I'd rather be barefoot. I'm not putting Payless shoes on. You know what I mean? So I come from very humble beginnings. I understand that it's not easy to become successful right from nothing, and it's blood, sweat, and tears, man. Like, you're building a business. Like, you have to be ready to put in some sweat equity, like roll your sleeves up and get to work.
That's
right
it.
And I'm thankful that I was never on social media for all those years because I wasn't comparing myself to nobody.
Right
I didn't have that
you were just focused on you.
Yeah, I was tunnel vision, just focused on just what I had to do. And again, I didn't do this for like the accolades, the awards, to be on stages, to be on platforms. it was because I had to survive. Like I had to get out of the
Yeah.
position that I was in, and I want to better my life, my family's life, and my children's life. So I was like, there was no other option.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when
You're not gonna fail.
no, I'm not going to fail. And look, every entrepreneur fails. But the thing is, if you stay in failure, when you quit, that's when you fail.
Right.
Failure is
Right.
not an option.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not to say that you're not going to have experiences and things to learn from, right? Because even if, let's say, we talk about not every transaction is great, but it's a learning experience. You know, I tell loan originators that are like starting out, I said, listen, there are lessons in every single thing. Take all the good, the bad, and every transaction, every phone call. Think about what you said. What could you do? You know, what could you do better? What didn't you do? What did you do that was good? So you take a phone call, you take a transaction, you take all these things, and you write these notes down, and you learn from them. You learn from them, and think over time how much that builds your business and builds your experience or your knowledge base. You know, and then I think about like, man, you know, you've gone through all of that, and now you're doing all the stages. You're doing you know all of these great you know masterminds, and how does that feel? How does that feel coming from the place where you were to now being someone that now you can kind of pour back into people, right? And help people out and show them a different way.
It's weird because perception is like the new reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when people see that you look busy or you look successful, then, oh, this guy must be really successful.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, again, it took me a very long time to be where I'm at. It's not like it was overnight success. This wasn't no instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
There were times I wanted to give up. Again, I was filling out applications. I was like, man, maybe this is not for me.
Yeah.
You know, and I just trusted, you know, God's plans, and I just put my head down, just keep working and working and working. And I went from 2 deals, 14 to 22 to 24 and up and up and up.
Wow.
And just being on the stages, it's I made so many connections, right? Just talking on stages, getting deals, meeting new people, you know, and once you realize that you're in a people business, the more hands you shake, the more money you can make.
I like
then
that.
you understand the game, right?
Yeah.
You understand, like, I've driven to Connecticut at 3 a.m. to
Right.
speak for
Right.
15 minutes because I wanted to get uncomfortable. I wanted to see if I could do it. If I speaking in front of 400 people that I don't even know.
Right.
Right, I wanted to challenge myself and like, all right, if I could do this, then I can speak to pretty much anybody on any stage.
Yeah.
And
you know, it's funny, if you don't mind, you just said like the fear of that, right? But it's like you want to push yourself because then you start to think after. And I'm sure you, in the beginning, you're like, oh man, you know, like you get that nervous feeling. And then after, you're like, man, I just crushed that. Like I was all in my head. Like, what was the problem? Like, I'm just talking to people, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
yeah, like when I was speaking on stage, I literally, bro, I got there and I get a text like, oh, you're the first speaker. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can feel my stomach butterfly.
Right,
Oh
right.
man, I gotta use the bathroom. You know what I mean? I was just nervous, and then when I got up there, and I was just like, man, like that was great.
Yeah.
You know, just the feedback and like, oh my gosh, it was, you know, I loved everything you had to say. You were very honest, raw, authentic. And that's always a message for me. I never want to portray somebody that I'm not, right? And I felt like in the beginning of my career, that's what I was doing. I was
So
trying
funny.
I was covering my lips on my neck. I was trying to hide my tattoos.
Yeah.
You know, all my white shirts would be orange.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it was just like, I just, you got to be comfortable in your own skin.
And it's so funny. And you talked about the fact that in the beginning, I almost tried to like kind of fake it till you make it. And now you come full circle to a place where you're just like, I don't need to do that. I just need to be me. And in being me, I see more success because I understand that people just want the authenticity, you know, just the real you. That's who they want to work with.
It's true. And just back to like being on stages, like I said, you see, if you don't have any haters, you're not doing something right, man.
Oh, that's
like,
true.
People always talk subliminal, and I always see the videos and the messages, and I'm like, bro, like, some people are jealous of what you're doing because they can't do it themselves.
I always say the same thing. It makes them internalize themselves.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, you know, what's stopping me? Like, I could do that, but they just don't like that you did it and they didn't.
Right. Or they put limits on you, and then you surpass those limits, and it's like, I don't understand. I don't get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for me, it's like, and I like this quote, it's not on me, it's in me.
That's
you know, it's, you could take away the social media. I'm still going to do what I have to do. Business is still going to keep going. I'm still going to make, you know, deals happen. Social media is a great way to reach the masses, right? I could put out a video today and reach 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people.
Yeah.
And that's just marketing, right? It's advertising. And we live in a day and age where attention is currency. The more attention you have, the better it is. That's why you see all these brands like Nike, Adidas, and you see all these influencers partnering up with them and doing brand deals and collaboration deals, because they understand, like, the more attention we have, the better it is for us.
That's it. Branding is important. That's why I talked about, the shift in just even the world dynamic and the way things are, right? It's no longer about just being a New York broker, right, and a New York agent. You could be a worldwide agent. You could be a national agent. And that's what social media does, because you can have people in Cali looking at what you're doing, and guess what? They got a client that's moving to New York, and they're like, oh, Kevin, hey, I just saw your video, man. I love what you're putting out there. I love your knowledge. I get to see it because it's your resume, right? They get to see all the deals you're closing. They get to hear you and listen to you speak and get to know you and understand your knowledge. And they're like, I got a client for you. Or it could be from Florida, or it could be from anywhere. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Again, the power of social media, right? Not only does it build a brand, but it reaches the masses.
It does. Again, it's the perfect way to get your name out there. I think you should be shooting content every day. You know what I mean? It's just put it out there as much as possible, because you never know what video is going to work, what video is going to touch somebody, or you're going to educate somebody like, you know what, that made sense. Let me reach out. And I've had videos like that, information and content, educational content, where somebody reached out like, I watched that video you had and I have a question. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it just turns into a deal. It turns into a new relationship, a new connection. So yeah, man, if you're not putting social media content out there, it's a disservice for yourself.
Now, one of the things I want to talk about too is we mentioned it, right? Like, the market has shifted. It's not where it was 2 years ago, where you could kind of walk out your door and you got deals coming in, right? Like, you've actually got to put in work. With that, a lot of people, seasoned and new, are really discouraged in the market. They just either dropping out, they don't know what to do. We didn't talk about, NAR and the changes with that and how that's going to affect the industry. But, real estate's really shaken up right now. And a lot of agents are shook up. They don't know what to do. If you could give them some advice right now, and just talking in general, like, for the ones that are thinking about getting out of it or being in a place where they're just not sure where this is going, like, what would you tell them?
You have to surround yourself with people who are doing things you want to do, people who are more successful than you, and you want to accomplish these things, right? You want to have a successful business. You want to do a lot of deals. You have to rub shoulders with top producers to realize and figure out what they're doing and what you can do to implement in your business, right? Look, even when COVID hit and we all thought that the market was going to crash, there was agents out there saying, oh no, we can't do this, we can't sell, we can't, there's certain things we can't do. And they were just stuck in that fear mindset. Like, you understand, if there's 10 people in the room and 9 of those people are being negative, guess what's going to happen? Eventually, you're going to have negative thoughts. Right. So it's important that you don't surround yourself with negative people, or it's going to offend some people, low-producing agents who don't do a lot of business. Because guess what? They're going to be like, oh, my business is no good. The rates are too high. There's no inventory.
And then it starts from the industry to the company to whoever. You know what I mean? It sucks it all in, because it deflects everything, right?
What I would say to those people is, you got to figure out what your value is, right? What do you bring to the table? If I'm sitting down with you and I'm a client or customer, etc., what value do you bring to me? What can I learn? Yeah. How are you going to help me? How are you going to service me? Because everybody thinking, oh, like the sale. Like, I just want to close the sale. I just want to make the check. But when you understand that everybody's circumstances are different, and you have to help people and service them correctly, like, everybody's situation is different, right? So one person may not be the same as the second person. You got to understand that and add value to them, right? Figure out how you can solve their problems. Because I'm putting out fires every single day. Sometimes it's not even 9 a.m. I'm like, I'm putting out fires every single day. Right. So when you understand that you have to add value to these people, then you come with a better understanding. Like, hey, I can help you do this, or this is how. You have to educate people. Right now, we're going to see a market where it shifts, and you're going to see a lot of agents leave. In 2023, Tom Ferry put out there that 60,000 plus agents left the industry because they got scared. They understood that this may not be as easy as we thought it was. Right. Because COVID, everybody was a rock star. Everybody was a superstar.
That's it. Everybody was an agent, and everyone. I remember, like, social media was just flooded with, closing, this deal closed these. You know what I mean? And it was like you said, everyone was a top agent, right? But we were talking about this in the beginning. I mean, I love this market, because at the end of the day, you get to see the cream rise to the top.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I say the same exact quote. You're really gonna see who the top producers are, who the top entrepreneurs are, and that's good because look, you want the best of the best servicing the right, clients,
Yeah.
right? You want the ones who are educated to always succeed. And I'm not saying that there's other agents who are part time or may do a deal here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Great,
Right.
but we treat this as a business, right? Like this is
Absolutely.
the bread and butter, right?
That's right. You don't want it to be watered down. I mean, this profession, it's an amazing profession. Like you said, you're helping people every single day. And, it's not a business that you just really want watered down. And people think, oh, it's just, real estate. No, like we do important things every day.
Yeah, and you see so many things online on Google like, oh, real estate agents are just door openers. They're
Right.
overpaid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you would step in my shoes and try to do what I do and handle everything I handle, you'd be like, yo, I quit.
Right.
I don't want to do it no more. You know what
I
I mean?
agree. I agree with you because the phone calls, like you just said, putting out fires. The first thing you wake up in the morning, you get a phone call, you got to put out fires. Doing that from 8, 9 o'clock in the morning until 10, 11 o'clock at night, people don't understand that. It's not easy work. It's hard work. That's why people step in and fall out every day because they realize, what you see on the outside or the perception is not the reality, right? You see the perception of, oh, you can make this big check or you can make this money. Okay, you step into that world. And why is it most agents drop out within the first year to 2 years? Right? Think about it. What is it? I think it was like 80%.
Yeah, like
of all
85%.
Right. Of all agents, fall out of the industry in the first 2 years. Like, there's a reason for that. Because when they realize, like, yeah, it's hard work.
I think we're still in that COVID mindset because even sellers that I meet with now, they're like, oh, what's the point of selling? My interest rate is 2.5% and I'm never going to see that again. What they don't understand is they have so much built up equity that you can use that equity to buy the perfect home you truly want. And if it makes sense where the equity, it's a great amount, it'll balance off or close to.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's funny because I obviously get to see it on a day-to-day basis, with on the loan side of things. And it's so funny, right? The conversations that I have with people. You have the conversations with people like that are like, I don't want to do anything. I got a great rate. I'm good. And then you have a conversation with someone that's like, look, I don't really care about the rate. I have a gentleman right now. We closed a deal for him months ago, and I helped him on his first deal. He had like a 3.25%. We refinanced his house. He got a 6.5% interest rate, which people think would be nuts because he went from a 3.25 to a 6.5. He pulled out $200,000.
Nice.
He went and bought a 6-family unit property in Connecticut. It's bankrolling him. He's getting $8,500. His mortgage payment on that's about $4,600. Look at the money he's making there.
Yeah.
Now he's going to take all that extra money, pay down on that principal balance, pay down on his house principal balance. So now where he had, I think it was like 24 or 23 years left on the mortgage originally, when we did the math, him just putting an extra portion out of that $3,000 that he's pocketing, just put an extra portion of that to his mortgage every single month. He's now paying off his mortgage in like 14 or 15 years. So forget about the rate because at the end of the day, he's still going to end up saving because he's paying off his mortgage faster, saving, I think it was a couple $100,000 worth of interest. So that for him, he learned a really valuable lesson that it didn't really matter about the rate because now he was able to leverage his money and make it work for him.
And now he's got a new investment.
He's already telling me, you know what he said? I can't wait till we start finding the next property. He's already out there trying to think about buying another 5, 6, unit property because he sees it.
Yeah, once you understand the game, you understand, how it works and how you could make a lot of money. Your brain just starts going. It's like, all right, I got to make the right moves, the right investments.
It's like I said, it's like the tale of two cities, right? Two stories. And you can look at it where you've got some people that are sitting down just waiting, or even people that are supposed to be buying now, waiting on the sidelines, saying, okay, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for, rates to come down and all this stuff. And then you look at the other side of it, like, right, JP Morgan Chase, BlackRock, all these big companies that are buying portfolios of properties. They're not waiting, right? Even if inflation's sky high, they're not waiting. They're buying. Why are they buying? Again, I have conversation with investors. They're spending money like they never spent before because they see opportunity because there's less competition. And they understand that. So when they go in on properties, they have better negotiating power right now. They're getting deals out there. And, some of the other people are just sitting by waiting, watching all that go by.
Yeah, those people who wait on the sidelines, they're going to be waiting forever. I always tell people, look, you'll never know how deep the water is if you never jump in. Like if you're scared to act and take risks, then you'll never get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward.
That's it. So, you know, I think that's important for people to understand right now, because people ask the question all the time. You know, should I buy now? Is it a good time to buy it? Is it good? And I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's a good time to buy now. It was a good time to buy a year ago. It was a good time to buy 5 years ago. It was a good time to buy 10 years ago. It was a good time to buy 20 years ago. Because you can always keep looking back and see where real estate's gone.
When is it never a good time to build your own equity?
Right. Exactly. And so the problem with it, with everything, like you just said, it goes back to that instant gratification, right? People want to know, oh, I bought now and I got a really great deal. Or I bought now, I got a really great rate. You got to look at the big picture. You got to look at the big game. And, you know, as I said, people that bought homes back in 2008 when others, because I was around then, and I remember when the market crashed, there were people in Brooklyn that were buying 2-family homes for $550,000, you know? And there were people that are like, I don't want to buy now because the market's going to crash. I don't want to buy. I don't know what's going to happen. But again, there were two tails, right? People that sat and said, I don't want to do it until I see where the dust settles. And there were people that were like, okay, listen, you know, everything's up in fire and properties are selling for 50, 75%, you know, less. I'm buying now. And I remember there were people that bought then, their houses are now worth, you know, $2 million, $3 million. Think about that wealth that they generated.
It's life-changing.
It is. And that's the message that I try to tell people over and over and over again. Stop trying to time everything. Stop trying to, you know, make it the best, you know, interest rate and the best price and the best. It's all going to work out. You just got to jump in. You just got to do it.
It's true, man. It's true. I was just having this conversation. Like, when I bought my first house, and I bought it before COVID, right? So I didn't have to pay $50,000, $60,000. But I never told anybody that I was buying the house.
Right.
Because for me, it's always like, I'm going to do this no matter what. Like, I don't care what anybody's saying.
Right.
I didn't want to get my parents involved and let them know. Because then, you know, oh, why are you going to buy this? It needs so much work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like, I was ready to take on the risk.
Right.
I was like, you know what? This makes sense. Right?
And you just didn't want to hear what
I didn't want to hear the negativity.
Right.
You know, like I said, I didn't want to hear the negativity.
Everyone's got an opinion.
And of course, they're trying to protect you, right? They're trying to look out for you. But I saw the bigger picture.
Yep.
Following year, 3 and change went from almost 550.
Wow.
So like, it was a no-brainer. You know what I mean? And if I would have listened to people and brought them around, and they would have been like, no, don't get this, I would have, been paying.
Yeah, still paying rent,
renting.
then and if you did end up buying a couple years later, you would have paid $100,000, $200,000 more for that house. You know what I mean? So that's the thing about, you know, procrastination or just waiting to time things.
You can't time the market. It's all about your time in the market.
Right.
You know? You just got to get in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Kevin, I appreciate you taking the time and jumping on here, man. I really enjoyed our conversation, just getting to know more about you and your vision. And I definitely, obviously, like I said, you know, I've been able to kind of watch your success. I think you've got so much to do in this industry, man.
Appreciate it.
You know, even on top of all that you've accomplished. And I definitely look at you as someone that can really help a lot of people out there. If you want to know the truth and just not have to deal with the fluff and all the hype and whatever, you know, make sure you listen to Kevin, follow him. Because he's really got a lot of great insights. So, you know, I appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
All right.